सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। We are on page 160 in the 15th mantra. Repeat after me. Ashabdamasparshamarupamavyayam Ashabdamasparshamarupamavyayam Tatha rasam नित्यमगन्धवच्चयत् तथा रसं नित्यमगन्धवच्चयत् अनाद्यनन्तं महतः परं ध्रुवम् अनाद्यनन्तं महतः परं ध्रुवम् निचायतन्मृत्युमुखात् प्रमुच्यते निचायतन्मृत्युमुखात् प्रमुच्यते। Nichaya imam, Nichaya having known, tat mrityumukhat pramuchyate, we get liberated from death. Somebody asked Gurudev, how would you define death? And he very beautifully said, another experience, nothing more, nothing less. Meaning, the experiencer continues to move forward if there is another life, and if it is the only life left, because there is no more seed for the next life, then even from that existential perspective, to that existence, it is just an observation of an experience. And what is this mrityu? Mrityu can be defined in various forms. One of the most beautiful ways of presenting the concept of death, according to our scriptures, it is called a constructive destruction is called mrityu. Most of us have a very destructive meaning for the word destruction. When everything is ruined, that is what we mean by destruction. But here the word is constructive destruction. This whole process of constructive destruction is the existing format of something changes to become something else. From matter to energy, energy to matter, there is a transformation. And that transformation leaves the earlier qualities and moves forward with a newer quality and a newer version. For example, like sometimes I go to these houses and you can tell many things, but coming from an Indian background, if you end up telling that the curd, yogurt, this is also homemade, Swamiji. So I have to look at them and say, it's a big deal. This happens every day. So what is that curd? So the milk is boiled, maintained to a certain temperature. Usually it is around the body temperature, 37 degrees Celsius. That is the best temperature for the bacteria to develop. And then you add the culture, you add the samskara, culture, samskara, some lactobacillus or acidophilus or a mixture of all that, and then you add into it. Especially if it is a cold season like now, put it in the oven. Don't turn the oven on. Just turn the light on to keep the warmth. And leave it unshaken till the next day morning. And what you get? The milkness in it has expired, is done with. And what has come about? The yogurt or the curdness has been born. Can it be reversed? No, it cannot be reversed. From curd can you get milk? Practically not possible. It has changed its format. Coming from South India, even this will change format. After a week's deposit of curd, in the weekend it becomes various formats. It becomes kadhi. In Tamil they call it more korambu. In Malayali it becomes aviyal. The same curd, it's used. And once it changes that format, the earlier stature of it is gone. A new form has taken its place. And Gurudev used to explain it, that you sow a seed. The seed grows. See, the creation, the Creator's geniusness is so beautifully depicted here. He is given that little seed everything required, all potentiality required. You just have to sow it and give enough moisture and warmth. The seed swells up. The little sprout grows with the existing strength by the seed, the two halves, and then breaks open the earth and then starts growing into a little sapling. The moment you see the little sapling grow, the seedness in it has died. it's been destroyed. You cannot revert back to that. But there is a constructive destruction in losing the seedness. What has been acquired? The status of being a sapling. Now the sapling grows into a bush, into a plant, and then starts giving out flowers. The flowerness dies. After pollination, the flowerness in it dies, giving rise to the fruit. And the fruitness dies, giving rise to further seeds of the same kind. So every such progressive step, the earlier format has been lost and a newer form has been gained. I think this is what even the science says. Neither energy nor matter, neither it can be created nor can be destroyed. What can happen? It can only change format. And that change is called mrityu. And how long can we be changing? From the very superficial perspective, as long as we are identified with this ratha and the rathi, as long as we are identified with this body, mind and intellect, there exists that ego, the jivatva, and that ego, as long as it is being maintained, there is an equation of good and bad, there is an equation of punya and papa. There is an equation of vasana, karma, again vasana. As long as that jivatva exists, that ego exists, the identified entity exists, this continues from one birth to the next. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Continuously this happens. In a much subtler way, death has been defined in a more pragmatic way. Any act of becoming, and that becoming tends to be a limitation. That act of becoming which is a limitation is called mrityu. And probably that is why when we hear people talk, we hear that often they say, can you do this? I'm afraid. I'm afraid. Why that cliche? Because every act of becoming, there is either anxiety or there are carried forward from earlier experiences of various miseries, pains and sorrows that we are scared of becoming. So we are constantly experimenting with new platforms, new arenas, so that I can become something new. And why is this itch to become? It is like an eczema. You know the eczema? It feels so itchy that you scratch. Sometimes you scratch and almost to bleeding. Why? Hey, it feels good. It feels good as long as you are itching, but afterwards it hurts. So that itch is there in every one of us to become. Knowing very well that entire path is leading towards limitations. In Bhagavad Gita, the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there is a very beautiful simile given, wherein there is the firefly. So these fireflies, in the evening when there is a lamp, halogen lamp or the sodium vapor lamps, or even the ordinary oil lamp which is lit outside. These fireflies, they swamp it, and by morning if you look at it, the entire area is filled with these little bugs, all dead because of self-immolation. So when you hold one of those bugs and say, look, that fire looks attractive from here, but you go close to it, it will burn you to death. You have to imagine, the bug will look at you with a weird face. Do you think my other friends are fools, just they are going like that only? I know what is important in my life. Let me go. Don't try to tell me. Now what happens to that poor bug? Dead. Mrityu mukhat pravishtam. No pramuchyate, pravishtam. We are also like that. The itch is so intense that we dive deep into these limitations. Each one of these limitations is like a string. But we have associated and bound ourselves with so many strings that it becomes impossible for us to get out. Have you heard this Gulliver's Travels or Gulliver's Travels, however you pronounce it? So one of his experiences is that his ship always wrecks. So one of the times that his ship wrecks, and he finds himself on a seashore. Actually, he thinks he is dreaming. Why? Because he vaguely sees that there are little men, humans walking all over him. But then he finally wakes up to find that he is not dreaming, that he is on an island with Lilliputs. It's a very funny story. Why? These Lilliputs, with all their available strength, for them he is like a monster, Rakshasa, a blown up proportion of their own kind. They are scared. So what do? They say, thank goodness he is unconscious. Let us bind him down, let us tie him down. And what have they tied him down with? The best of the ropes that they can find. And from the human perspective, they are like the needle thread, that thin. But for them, it is the best of the thread. So he was tied down with this kind of a thread. So, okay, that should be easy for him to get out, right? But he has been bound with so many thousands and millions of it that it becomes virtually impossible for him to get rid of it. Our conditionings of limitations is of the same kind. One little, we accumulate so much that it becomes impossible to break away from them. Which reminds a simple example of a silkworm. And if you have gone to the silkworm harvest, they feed on something like the blackberry bushes. No, here the blackberry bushes. So similar is a mulberry, the same kind of fruit, but the leaf is supposed to be very tasty for them. I have not tasted it. I have overheard two silkworms talking. Tasty mulberry leaves. And they are voracious eaters. There are these bamboo frames in which these worms are placed, and they are fed with these fresh green leaves, and each one grows from a small tiny size to this huge size. Nice. And as they start growing in size, there is an inherent fear. So I need to cover myself up, protect myself, and it starts weaving these beautiful cocoon around it. And finally, it covers the ceiling. So secured. Now what happens? It cannot escape from it. Let me not go into the details after that. It gets killed. And from there is drawn the silk threads from that cocoon. Our condition is similar to that. And don't make funny faces. Because as much as the silkworm is helplessly pathetic in that condition, we are equally pathetic in our condition. Not much of a difference. At least in the cocoon you can see the limitation. Our limitations are so binding that we are not able to see it even, in spite of it binding us. We weave so many of them. That's why it is called Bhava Sagar. Any act of becoming which gives our freedom away to limitations is called Mrityu. That act of becoming. And who is speaking this? The best part here is the Lord of Death himself saying that these are the traps of death. See, we may trust the other rishis or not. Pata nahi, they have stayed in the cave for a long time, hallucinating something. May or may not be right on spot. But here is the Lord of Death talking about death. How to escape from the clutches of death. Why is he so worried about, or why is he so interested in telling us about escaping from the clutches of death? And of late his work pressure has grown. He just wants to ease his pressure out. Hey Baba, mukti le lo. Enough of this. So here is the beautiful technique called art of dying. And we keep learning about art of living. Gurudev has written that book, beautiful book. There's art of dying. Death of whom? That is what in Mahabharata, there's a beautiful shloka. That which gives up, give that one up. See, what is trying to give up everything or to possess everything? It is the sense of ego. That sense of ego has to be given up. It is the death of that ego. That is the subtler meaning here. Mrityu mukhat pramuchyate, that the ego has to be totally annihilated. How? Mercilessly. But today our condition is like, there are these beautiful jokes. The kids, I learnt it from the kids. The elephant and the ant jokes. Have you heard them? So there were two ants on a branch, and an elephant very hastily moves under that tree, knocking one of the ants off balance, and it falls straight on the elephant's head. Did you know what did the ant which was on the branch tell the ant which fell on the head of the elephant? Squish him down! Is it even possible? Our condition is like that. We are trying to annihilate the ego, which is so bloated and is so powerful right now that it is almost impossible for us to do it. Because our convictions are wrongly placed. What are our convictions? the first conviction. The first conviction which has to be changed for good. We have convinced and bought into the logic that I need happiness and my happiness is out there. Out there where? Any which place which can correspond to my sense organs, those sense objects are the places where there is happiness. So here it says, Ashabdam asparsham arupam avyayam tatha rasam nityam agandhavachayat. Where do we want to find it? Shabda. We want to find that sukha in Shabda. Sound. Beautiful sounds. Again, it is personalizedly different. From generation to generation, it is different. There was once that time frame wherein in Indian movie industry, people used to somehow sing in their nasal sound. And people from that era still like those songs only. I think even Lata Mangeshkar was in that cusp. She has also sung a couple of nasal songs. Jaba dilahi toot gaya. Horrible. But tell that to that generation people, they say, that is actual music. And not to now generation. We would say that, Kishore Kumar, Mohammad Rafi, Mukesh, though he sang majority sad songs, that is called music. Or M.S. Subbalakshmi, or Jasraj, Bhimsen Joshi, Kumar Gandharva, that is called music. Tell that to this generation of kids here. Have you ever entered into the room by mistake? Baap re baap. It is like, some handful of bombs bursting in your ears. What is this? Soothing music. What do they call it? Heavy metal. Heavy rock. Literally like rocks in the ears. And for them, it is sound, music. Sukha. This kind of dialogue happens only in Indian movies. When the actress is angry and the hero says, even in your anger, your voice sounds so pleasing. So whenever the dialogue comes, it indicates only one thing: yet to get married. Because after marriage, the same thing appears like, earlier it was a nightingale, now it is like a crow. Shabda. Sparsha. To have sukha in sparsha. Different kinds of materials. Different kinds of environments. Presently, if you sit outside, or if this was the Indian format of temple, like outside the temple there are pillars, and what is the temperature outside now? Around 40. It would not be sukha. So we have conditioned air so that there can be sukha. Swamiji, I have mastered Sitoshna Sukha Dukkheshu. I have mastered Sita and Ushna. When it is Sita outside, I can create Ushna inside. When there is Ushna outside, I can create Shita inside. So there is a feel. So it can be comfortable. And then Rupa. Rupa, pleasant forms. You know, some of the houses that you visit, they are more like, what is the right word? Museums than house. And everything is beautifully displayed. But there is no sense of that, you know, homely feeling there. It is like a museum. Everything is on display. Husband is on display, wife is on display, children are on display. I am not exaggerating it. I have gone to a house wherein I happened to walk on certain part of a very costly rug on the floor, and this lady of the house comes with a little comb kind of a thing and then sets it right. Wait till then you will know. Because they will discipline you. So what are children? Bundle of joy invented by God to discipline the parents. Bundle of joy for whom? For the kids. Everything has to be, you know, perfect, synchronized, symmetrical. So much so that we even have to have the lawns mowed. Do you know what is cultivated in US? Unproductive cultivation, which is the maximum cultivation, is grass, lawn. And all the evergreens, the reason they are called evergreens is they don't change their color with the change of the season. Hardy. So they cannot grow any which way they want to. They have to be maintained in that. I am glad there is no other intelligent being than human being existing on earth. Suddenly we look boxed. Why? For his pleasure I am boxed. Why? They like everything in this box shape or circular shape. You know, some of these shops that amusement parks. I was in one of these grocery stores, and there was a Japanese watermelon, and they were square in shape. And the advertisement was they are made to be in that square shape so that it can be easily accommodated into the refrigerators. Exact size. Everything has to be in that form. Sometimes it goes to the extreme. This Majnu, you have heard of Laila Majnu, right? Was in love with Laila. So Laila's father comes and says, you are a prince. You can get a princess. I know my daughter is not that beautiful. Why are you in so madly love with her? You know the famous dialogue, right? What did he say? He said, लैला की खूबसूरती को देखने के लिए मजनू की आंख चाहिए. वाह वाह वाह. To appreciate the beauty of Laila, you need Majnu's eyes, vision. Truly blessed. We need to appear, not just that everything, and even ourselves, we need to appear beautiful. We need to appear, presentable. And the presentability is what this market has really captured. The food may be really bakwas, that you really need to taste mukhwas afterwards. But it will be presented in a very beautiful platter. Presentability. Rupam. Rasam. Rasa, taste. Ask any South Indian. I keep telling, right? What is a South Indian meal? 7-course meal. All out of rice. This is very easy, very nice. So you just have to cook mountains of rice and change the format. Add a little tamarind and a little seasoning to it, it becomes tamarind rice. I was telling this other day too. Add a little coconut or pepper, it becomes coconut rice. Squeeze a little lemon, it becomes lemon rice. Mix it with little cinnamon and eggplant curry, it becomes wangi bath. The sambar, it becomes bisi bede bath. And same rice, milk and little cardamom and sugar, kheer. And then the final touch. Ask any South Indian, they cannot survive without that. They will eat pizza, but they have to end their meal with curd rice. Oh, curd rice नहीं खाते ना? अच्छा नहीं लगता. Rasa. And then gandha. Smell. Whether it is house, whether it is car, whether it is on the shelf, smell. Even the cloth has to have a certain kind of smell. Those fabric, whatever you call it, has to smell. So I was at somebody's house and I observed that early in the morning, without any shaucha, snana pana, was cooking elaborately and then went to take a shower. So I asked, I couldn't resist. Why? Shouldn't you first take shower and then cook? Swamiji, I don't like the smell of food on me. It is the same food that goes inside, which makes you. You may take a shower afterwards also. Shortcut. Anyway, smell. Never go into the students' dorm when they are in universities. I have done that mistake once. Rama Rama. It's a small little dingy apartment. I stepped in. There was some kind of a overwhelming, nauseating smell. I said, what is that? Don't tell anybody, Swamiji. That is my laundry. I meant to put it in the dryer, but it has been sitting in that corner after the washer for almost now 3 weeks. Swamiji, that may be one specific case. No, this has been a regular experience. Smell. So we want pleasant smells, aromatherapy. Different kinds of smells. And again that smell is depending on what we are conditioned. There were this bunch of fisher folk women who came to the village to sell their fish. They sold, but they were caught in a storm. They had a friend, and that friend had a flower business. They said, please join. They ate food. And all three of these fisher folk women couldn't sleep at night. Why? It was a weird smell of the flowers. So they brought their fish basket inside. They started snoring. The flower lady woke up. Why? Some weird smell of fish. Through these various organs of perception, there is a constant conviction that I need to find that happiness in the world outside. The happiness that we are seeking is not out there. Where is it? It is my own true nature. This is one meaning, one concept to understand, one conviction to change. That my effort to go out there and work is not to get happiness. Happiness and action do not have anything in common. Actions cannot yield happiness, period. My interactions with the world outside through the sense perceptions cannot give happiness. It can further bind me, but can never give me happiness. It cannot even give me peace, let alone happiness. Neither dukkha nivritti happens nor sukha prapti happens. That is the first one. Second, stop trying to find that supreme through the limited perception that we have through the eyes and ears, nose, tongue and touch. Because that happiness is not something which is a subject of these sense perceptions. Happiness cannot be seen, cannot be heard, cannot be tasted, cannot be touched, cannot be smelt. It cannot be. So when we sit on the seat of meditation, all these sensory perceptions and actions, sense perception and the sense organs of action, have to be withdrawn to their respective golaka, indriyas. Eyes have to withdraw, ears have to withdraw. Swami, how do you withdraw? It's very easy. We do it many times. Like we are sitting in the classroom. Like the doctor's board which says, such and such doctor, doctor such and such. If he is inside the office, it says in. If not in the office, it says out. Similarly, the display board here clearly says whether we are in the class or outside the class. Now what is happening there? I am screaming on the top of my lungs, and this PA system helps me reach an amplified sound in spite of such disturbances. Ashabdamasparshamaroopavachayat. No sound reaches, no form reaches. Where are you? You have withdrawn from all these distractions. Possible? You had a disturbing day at the office and you are very seriously thinking about it, and you start driving back home, and as mechanically you lift your hand to turn the garage door up, suddenly realize, how did I end up here? Because that day from office till here, I don't remember what traffic or what kind of road or what kind of intensity was there. Why, where was I? Luckily not in an ICU. Why? Because the mind was completely working on an autopilot. Where was it? Withdrawn from its sense organs. So it is a possibility that we have been experiencing that these sense organs can be withdrawn. Once withdrawn, parked in their respective organs of perception and action, including the mind and intellect, we have to turn them off and transcend. The organs of perception and action can be controlled through the mind can be controlled through the intellect, and the intellect, because of its subtlety, transcends itself. When the convictions are changed and the controls are brought in place, the ego loses its strength. How does it lose its strength? See, there are two feeders constantly feeding in to substantiate that ego. One feeder is called doership. The second feeder is called enjoyership. So what do we have to do? Cut these two. When the feeders are cut, what happens to the ego? It vanishes. So how do we cut these two feeders? The act of doership can be given up when the act is dedicated to something higher, something subtler, nobler than the stupid little ego. Now, whenever I say stupid little ego, it is my own ego that I am trying to transcend. So, dedicating the act for family, better than myself. Subtler than that, dedicating the act to the field of science, to the field of sports, to the field of humanity. Highest and subtlest is to the altar of Paramatma himself. Act of dedication. And then the enjoyership is cut. How do you cut the enjoyership? When the intellect carries the clarity and changes the conviction that my happiness is not dependable variable on the world outside. The sense objects cannot give me that happiness. And to have that conviction, only a matured mind can entertain it. Only a subtle, sharp, still intellect can entertain such thought. Otherwise, the individual feels so restricted, compelled, that when I know that I can have fun there, why are you stopping me? It's only when people have found with their own personal experience and the wisdom has arisen inside. That is why yesterday we saw arise. That wisdom has to first take birth. And that clarity, when it transcends and transforms into conviction, That I am no more bought with the concept that my happiness is out there somewhere. So there is neither craving, there is neither missing, nor there is an aversion to anything. There is neither craving nor aversion. And that can be the solid state of experience or existence of an individual who is having a firm vairagya. Vairagya does not mean distaste in the world, which is what we most of the times come to conclude. Now, wherever there is beauty, wherever there is, glory, you observe it. You participate in it, but neither crave for it nor have aversion for it. Very beautifully stated by another scripture, it says, Agate swagatam kuryat, nirgate na nivarayet. When it comes your way, welcome it, celebrate it. When it goes, don't restrict it, don't stop it. Welcome it, celebrate it. What do? When it comes, we have such a tussle because it is something new. I don't want to adapt, or I don't want to accept something new because I have to change from my earlier parameters to new parameters, and I resist it. And growing out of my resistance, I adapt myself to the new one. By the time I adapt myself to the new one, it is already time for it to bid farewell. And then, Dukhi man mere. My heart is aching. My heart is hurting. Now, how can it, something which is as insentient as the material world, hurt or ache the heart? Only when it is blessed by this consciousness to enter into my heart. And why did I allow it in first place to enter? The hopeless creatures that we are, the hope that we carried, maybe this will give me little bit of happiness. Thus, having gotten the wisdom of my day-to-day experience, when I sit on the seat of meditation, pull all these things out. And focus on avyayam, nityam, anantam. Avyayam, vyaya is to dispend. Vyaya. Avyaya is without any change or modification. That changeless entity, through the sense organs or the mind and intellect, there is only one changeless entity. And how is that changeless entity? It is nityam. That changeless entity can be changeless because it is eternal. And that is why in our scriptures we call it, that which is eternal is called Satya. So that which is Satya, that which is eternal, unchanging. Because our experience is, if something is not changed, it stagnates and starts stinking. So that Satya that you are talking, is it something that kind of a nature that it decays? No, avyaya. It does not decay. Why? Being eternal, it is also Shiva. Shiva, that which is auspicious. How do you find it? It is very easy to find it because it is the only one which is Sundara, the most beautiful, glorious. Not from the perspective of mind and intellect. See, wherever the parameters of the nature take over, ride over the parameters of mind and intellect, so you see something beautiful like a sunrise. The mind and intellect freeze, they stop, they cannot fathom, they cannot calculate it, put it in the perspective of their parameters. It stops. And whenever it stops, that is when we have a wow moment. Meaning, functional mind and intellect, you can never get to wow moment. And when that wow moment happens, you would find that you yourself have been disidentified with the body, mind and intellect. The example that comes into my head is this Archimedes. He was trying to solve that problem. How do I measure the volume? So one fine day he got into the bathtub, suddenly clicked. Amazing was the experience. And there was complete disidentification with body, mind and intellect. He started running out into the field, into the city, shouting, "Eureka, Eureka! I found it." And people said, "You might have found something. Did you lose your sense?" Never mind. What I have found, this is nothing. And we have seen many of these great bhaktas, great devotees, once they get into tune with that. And Mirabai also sings that in order to sing the glories and dance in His name, why should I feel ashamed? So withdraw from that to observe that which is Satya, that which is Shiva, that which is Sundara. Because it is eternal, undecaying as Avyayam. Anantam. Anantam, that which does not have any limits. The moment there is an end, it means there is a limit. Anything which has a start will have an end. Good, isn't it? We start at 7:30, we end at 9 o'clock. We start on Monday, we end on Friday. What if this class became Ananta? Then you would have the experience of Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka, you have constant satsanga. No escape from it. Anything that has a manufacturing date has to have an expiration date. Whether that date is predicted or not, it will change, die. And there is only one illumination, one conscious principle, that which does not decay, that which does not have an end. Anantam. And it says, Anadiyat. It does not have a beginning. Beginning is a concept of the mind. The moment the mind awakens, the moment the mind wakes up, there is a concept of time. For a sleeping mind, there is no concept of time. In your deep sleep, do you have a concept of time? If you have a concept of time, then it is not deep sleep. Try this. Take a paper and pen. Take a watch. Just about the time when you are knocked out into sleep, write that time down. Challenge. Why? You can never fulfill it. If you are writing, you are not asleep. If you are asleep, you cannot write. That which is eternal, that which caused the mind to come into play, and that mind starts visualizing two experiences, and the time gap between two experiences is the time. That which is a substratum for all this play to happen is before even the concept of time. Hence, therefore, anadi, time doesn't apply. Mahataha param. Mahataha param, that which is beyond the totality aspect. Totality comes into picture only when there is individuality. The moment the individuality is gone, the totality is also gone. There is no more application of the totality on the individuality when the individuality is gone. Mahataha param. Dhruvam, the only one which is constant. That is the self within, which illumines everything, but does not become anything that it illumines. It is something like the mirror. What does a mirror do? Reflects everything, retains nothing, and rejects nothing. What does a mirror do? It reflects anybody coming in front of it. Isn't it? Rejects nothing. It does not say, hey, hut, shakal to dekha. It does not have its own preferences. So this lady went into the antique shop and she was amused by something that was on the display there. So she calls the person there and says, "What is that?" So he had a chuckle. He said, "That is a mirror, ma'am." And it is good that the mirror does not retain anything either. Why? We would be sad if the mirror were to retain anything. Once upon a time, so long ago, you were like this. And now you are like this. It does nothing of such comparisons. Consciousness is like that. Illumines everything, retains nothing, rejects nothing. And that is what we need to do on the seat of meditation. Of course, language is a limitation. It is not a process of doing, it is a process of being. Yes, there will be thoughts, observe them. They are very terrible thoughts. Who asked you to brand them? Just observe them. You don't need to get identified with it. I'm carrying such bad thoughts. Let it be, flow. Let it flow out. Swami, today was such a beautiful meditation. I had such good thoughts. You have not understood the concept of meditation. Don't get identified, brand any thought, period. Just observe it, it will flow. The moment your observation becomes intense, even that flow will stop. So having reached to that state wherein I can watch my thought and it stops. Since there is nothing more to watch, the watcher, the seer also dies. What remains? That which remains is pure consciousness alone. Pure silence alone. Again, it means a very redundant statement to say pure silence, pure consciousness. It does not mean to indicate that there is impure consciousness. There is only one consciousness. But by the words that we communicate to appreciate what that status could be. Limitation of words. And then continuing he says, Nachiketamupakyanam Mrityu proktam sanatanam Uktva shrutva cha medhavi Brahmaloke mahiyate. See, this is the beauty of Shravana. Usually, when you do a work, who gets the benefit of it? You alone get the benefit of it. You eat. Whose hunger satiates? Yours. You put a certain effort, you get certain result. And your effort will yield your result. Except for Shravana. And what is Shravana? Somebody is putting the effort, speaking on it. And who gets the benefit? Anybody listening to it gets the benefit. So here our Yamaraja says, Nachiketam Upakhyanam. This entire dialogue between me and Nachiketa, which has been delivered by Mrityu, by Lord of Death. Sanatanam, and the message is a unique style of Upanishad. First-hand experience of Mrityu himself given to Nachiketa. Sanatanam. Anybody who speaks on it, Uktva. Anybody who listens to it, Shrutva. Cha Medhavi. Medhavi, an intelligent one who has spoken on it, an intelligent one who has heard of it. Meaning, it does not stop with Shravana alone, it gets a backup of Manana Nididhyasana also. What happens? Brahmaloke mahiyate. You are assured of Brahmaloka. Here Adi Shankaracharya ji defines it in two ways. He says, you reach the Brahmaloka, Chaturanana, the four-headed Brahma, and then go through the Krama Mukti. Or Brahman, the Supreme. You experience that in this world itself. Brahmaloke mahiyate. Swamiji, isn't there a second chapter also? Why is there a Phalashruti? And this is a unique style of this particular Upanishad. After the Upanishad is spoken, I think it comes even in Kathopanishad, the last student says, O Master, Upanishadam bo bruhi. After the entire Upanishad has been explained, he asks, please explain Upanishad again to me. Meaning, there were one who got the message with the first sentence said. They went for meditation, did not come back. There are second batch for whom the next few explanations were given. They went to meditate, did not come back. The third batch were still sitting. So they were given an analogy of the story. They got it. They left. The fourth batch, in order to reach there, this is the process of sadhana. Sadhana had to be specified. Oh, they went, started practicing. They did not come back. Fifth batch, they were still sitting. So the Guru looked at them. Kya? Why are you sitting? So the student said, Upanishad hai na? Ek aur bar boliye. Upanishadam bo bruhi. Please repeat the Upanishad again. The Guru again says, Sahana bhavatu, sahano bhunaktu. Cannot get frustrated with the student. कितने बार बोलूं, समझ में नहीं आता. Parents, they say, how many times should we tell the same thing to our children? However many times it takes. Somebody came very recently and said, Swamiji, now I have been going back to almost 7 years of what you have spoken. I was listening. I felt a sudden stab. I said, why? What happened? You have not spoken anything new in these 7 years. You know what? That is a stab at me, but what is it that stabbed you? I said. That which stabbed me, it took me 7 years to understand that. See, whichever Upanishad you take, it has the same message to offer. Whichever scripture you take, it gets the same message. Different perspectives of presenting it. So after the message is given, there might have been people who had few doubts. The clarification of these further doubts are the second chapter, which again refers to the first chapter often. But as of this particular message, it in itself is a complete message. Hence, therefore, they are tying it down before moving forward to the second chapter. As a final culmination, he says here, Ya imam paramam guhyam Shravayet Brahma Sansadi Prayata Shraddha Kaleva Tadanantyaya Kalpate Tadanantyaya Kalpata iti. So whenever we start, we say Atha. Remember in Bhagavad Gita also, Atha Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Atha Prathamodhyayaha. Atha is the beginning, and Iti means the end. So the end. What is he saying? He is giving the Phala Shruti. What is the Phala Shruti? Ya imam paramam guhyam. Those who give this beautiful message, Shravayet Brahma Samsadi. They learn and chant this. Like, when earlier, when we used to go to others' houses, the young children, they would recite, Twinkle, twinkle, little star, and every child has to chant that. And we have to be amused and then say, Shabash. It was those days. Nowadays it has changed. What is nowadays? Swamiji, hey Swamiji, tell the shloka, tell the shloka. And the child doesn't know, no. And then the blackmailing twists. Do you love mommy? Ore Rama. So say no. Okay. Baklatunda Mahakaya, Sulakoti, Samaplabani, Beglavulvede, Basalvagalavesala. What was the recent one that I heard? Vyasa Vislupaya. Vyasalupaya Visave. Namo by Brahmanide Vashita, Namo Nama. That Namo Namaha was said in Namo Nana Monamana. 3.5, 4-year-old. So if we memorize this, what is the need to memorize it? The reason that they are insisting on memorizing this particular chapter is you don't need to depend on book, you don't need to depend on any gadget, you don't need to carry it anywhere. It is right here. Whenever we find time, what do? Do the manana, do the nididhyasana. You don't have to say, gosh, I wish I had the printout, I wish I had the book, I wish at least had the electronic copy, e-reader. You don't need it if it is up here. The moment you get time, you can close your eyes and contemplate on them, meditate on these mantras. So memorize them. Shravayet Brahma Samsadi. To the field of this particular, to this field of experience, those who are experts, in front of them, chant and narrate your experience of nididhyasana so that it can be corrected. Shravayet Brahma Samsadi. Or Prayata Shraddha Kaleva. When there is the Shraddha Samaya, Shraddha, that which is an offering of Shraddha to our forefathers, to our elders who have passed to the other worlds. During those death ceremonies, Shraddha ceremonies, chant this, so that it becomes a good experience for you as well as acquires good punya for the departed ones. Prayataha shraddha kaleva. But Swamiji, why do we have to offer shraddha? Instead of offering shraddha, can't we go feed some poor people or feed some, who gave you the authority? Feed the poor also, not in lieu of this particular event. Perform shraddha. Can you explain shraddha? Not today. The scripture is giving us the instruction, follow. But why? Why should we perform shraddha? Drop the why, you have the instruction. Why should we perform shraddha? We should perform shraddha, instruction, period. Some other time we will discuss about shraddha and its importance. And during that shraddha, after the shraddha has been done, then chant this for the sake of the departed ones. Those who remember, meditate on this and chant during shraddha, tada anantyaya kalpata iti. They obtain immortality. Immortality, the unlimited blissful state. Thus comes the most enchanting of the Upanishads. The first chapter comes to an end. There is still one more chapter with 3 segments. We will see that in due course of time, whenever God permits. Should be announced. So whenever it is announced, mark your calendars and participate. Until then, I don't know if we are meeting on December 31st for Vishnu Sahasranam Puja here. Hope to see you all. But in case, but suppose, if you don't come, in my sincere prayer that each one of us be blessed with good health, good wisdom and good wealth, so that we can serve, we can bask in the glory of this knowledge and experience that Anantya Loka right here, right now. May each one of us be blessed with an amazing new year to come. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shant Shant Shantihi. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. We will have the Guru Dakshina. Please come and offer it to Guru.